Let's turn to football IQ, where Caleb likes to point out that some football coaches aren't that smart. Let's go ahead and get rolling. Where you got number one. Final poll question. I'm sorry. The final results of this poll question. Heupel is a good recruiter, leads 47%. Great recruiter, 24%. Still growing, 29%. So, Caleb, go ahead and shoot out your first coach that you don't think's that bright.
Well, I have to say this up front. Did you watch Thanksgiving NFL games, Dave?
Yes.
I have to say, it's a shame that I do football IQ for college, because I texted John last week, funny enough, and I have come to the conclusion that maybe it's because the games are closer, so they're exposed more, but NFL coaches are dumber than college coaches by and large.
Well,
and
you can't say that. There are more college coaches.
Yeah, but the Bears last week, you saw that play, right? Where they ran off 30 seconds off the clock on the final play. I'm sorry. That is, that's a level of stupidity I haven't seen in college, in football coaching at either level in a long, long time. Okay. So it's a shame.
Wait a second. Derek says Paris Hilton auctions. Oh, I thought he was saying, I didn't understand what he was saying. Thank you.
So
Derek. All right. Football IQ. What do we got?
This was a very good week of performances by coaches. They weren't as incredibly blatantly stupid as they usually are in college, but there were still some mistakes. And we're going to start with Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati, who lost to TCU 20-13. Near midfield in the first half, on 4th and inches, decided to punt the ball. Dave, you know how I feel about punting. I hate punting when it's 4th and inches near midfield. I don't care if it's on either side of the field. It was on Cincinnati side. But if it's 4th and less than a yard, you go for it if you're anywhere past the 40.
I agree. I saw a play over the weekend that it was 4th and 2, and they didn't go for it. And the analytics said to go for it. 4th and 2 is a monumental difference to me than 4th and 1. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so 4th and 2, my brother and I always talk about this. Analytics say go for it, but at that point, that's where you have to factor feel into the game. If it's a 55-40 game, you got to go for it. But if it's like a 7-3 game in the fourth quarter, maybe punt it.
Our poll question: football coaches are smarter than most peeps, not as smart as most peeps. Same. Right now, same 75%, 25% to smarter than most. Everybody thinks that, or nobody believes they're not as smart as most peeps. All right, who's up next on Football IQ?
All right, up next on Football IQ is, and this is one I think is a really smart guy, but he was not smart over the weekend, Mike Elko at Texas A&M. And Texas A&M playing Texas, they're down 17-7. They have it 4th and 1 on inside the 1 yard line on the goal line. They just called a run play up the middle that didn't work. Mike Elko, burns a timeout, which you know how I feel about coaches burning a timeout in that situation, and then just calls the same play. And I'm thinking you could go for a field goal and cut it to 17-10, but this didn't work just like one play ago. Why would you call a timeout? Burning a timeout, and then come out and run the same play.
I'll tell you why.
You suck, you jackass.
All right, who's up next on Football IQ? And it's part of the Last Look, brought to you by Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. They will take care of you with local vision correction, best in the biz. And they did my LASIK surgery. It has been fantastic. Who's up next there, Caleb?
All right, up next is Mario Cristobal at Miami. We knew Mario Cristobal was going to make this list again at some point. Miami should have beaten Syracuse. They didn't. They made a lot of mistakes. But the key play to me, Dave, final drive. There's 3 minutes to go. It's 42-35. And Mario Cristobal on 4th down and 7 settles for the field goal. You have a Heisman contender. You have the season-long Heisman favorite at quarterback. How do you not put the ball in his hands to try to go tie it up?
I don't know. I saw that one as well. I was like, that's going to make Caleb's list. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, you go for, and then of course, guess what? Syracuse never gave them the ball back. They just ran out the clock.
Yeah.
So
worst. I mean, losing to Syracuse is bad enough, but the fact that they will just run it down your throat is pretty embarrassing, in my opinion. I remind you that Football IQ is brought to you by our friends at Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. And with them, you should know that they did my LASIK vision correction, and it's absolutely perfect.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
All right, Caleb, who's next?
All right, a couple more. That Georgia Tech game. I actually believe in what Brent Key is doing at Georgia Tech, but it never should have gotten to those 2-point conversions in the final, however many overtimes. The first overtime, when Georgia Tech scored and went down 34-33, this is me going analytics, Dave. You go for 2 in the win at that point. You're on the road.
Yeah, and you're an underdog.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's your shot to win it. I'd rather have one play than 50, which is a half a football, which is about what they ended up doing.
Exactly. One of the dumbest statements I've ever heard someone make, and he's a former Memphis Tiger coach, and he's actually a good dude, but his name, it was Tommy West, and he said that he never believed in going for 2 to try to win it because he said, you don't take the game out of your players' hands. Well, one, you're still putting it in their hands to get the 2-point conversion, but 2, if your players aren't as good as the players on the other team, yeah, you want fewer plays for them to try to win the game.
No, I don't understand that take at all by Tommy West. All right, Caleb, who's up next?
And finally, our old man Lincoln Riley, who I don't know how he still has a job, and it's Tuesday. But
what's Southern California's record, by the way?
Didn't they finish 6-6? Is that what they finished?
They were a national championship contender at the beginning of the year.
They were. Look, going into 2023, Dave and I, if we were ranking coaches, Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly would have been in our top 5, and both of them may get fired before the end of next year. So USC was playing Notre Dame. They were down 35-28 late in the game. They were averaging 8 yards to carry on the ground, Dave, and they ran it with their star running back just 10 times and decided to throw it 50 times. The result of that was on back-to-back drives, one time inside the red zone, they threw pick sixes. Why does Lincoln Riley not want to run the ball?
Well, I don't know, but I will say this. You put words in my mouth just a little bit. You and I were together on Brian Kelly. I didn't ever think Lincoln Riley would put together a sufficient defense.
I can't get over. I have a question, and you can tell me this. Coaches that throw it a lot when they should run it. Do you think many times they do that because they want to show off their brilliant prowess of offensive play calling? Is that why they do that?
Yes. It's ego. It's ego.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I'll go back to this. Okay. What was Philip Fulmer known for? Running or throwing?
Running. He liked to run.
Right. You know, he reminds everybody, if you say he's conservative, said, you remember my first play call as offense coordinator, don't you? It's like, well, no, I was like 14. It was like a 70-yard touchdown pass, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's an interesting thing to point out. I mean, so to him, even though he's a running guy, he still wants you to know that he can call the pass and get open. I mean, let's face it. Chicks love the long pass a lot more than they love just running the football.
You're right. It reminds me of one weird story that stands out. This is years ago. Remember when Michael Vick was on the Steelers for a minute, like later in his career?
Barely, yes. Is this post dog?
This is post dog and post Eagles. Like this is on the Steelers. He was like on his last leg, but he actually got a start. And Pittsburgh was in overtime against some team. I forget who. It was 4th and 1 from like the 50. And Todd Haley, the Pittsburgh's offensive coordinator, with Michael Vick, who's old, and also, Dave, as you remember, not the most accurate passer. Because a play-action rollout for Michael Vick to throw down the sideline. Why not run it to get the first down when you could get into field goal range and win the game? Todd Haley won a head coaching job.
Maybe he had a run-pass option, and he didn't run it.
Who, Todd? Oh, Michael Vick? No. It was under center. It was a play-action under center.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said a rollout.
It was a play-action rollout, but he was under center, so it was clearly a designed call.
Right, but you would think there's times and
only Peyton Manning had the power to not hand the ball off under center and not tell anybody.
Well, true, but what I'm saying is that there's one player in particular that I don't want to point out because I like him a lot, but he didn't have a great handle schematically of what Tennessee was doing. So it was, is this guy open? Yes. Then throw it. If he's not, just run. So I don't know. Maybe he had some of that in him. I guess I'll defend him just a little bit.
I don't know everything because Todd Haley defended his decision to call the pass play in the press conference afterwards. So it was he had decided to throw the ball from the start. He wanted to be a head coach again.